Hi all, it's Michelle from Cozy Egg. Today is October 1st, 2025, and this is episode 153. We are going to pretend like today is September 30th because that's when I intended to record this video. Because I wanted to come back and talk to you prior to Dark October stitching starting. But here we are. So we're just going to pretend that it is the end of September, and yeah, that's where we're at. So if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for joining and checking out my channel. I hope that you find something that you enjoy, that inspires you, makes you laugh, whatever. A calming voice to put you to sleep, whatever you need. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. And as always, I appreciate the likes and subscribes and comments and all of that good stuff. So, yeah, and I am terrible about responding to comments. So I read them, I appreciate them. I am terrible about responding to them. So, okay. So my last video, I think, was around August 8th. So obviously it's been a while. So much has happened since then. So in my last video, I did kind of a recap of the Midsummer Night Stitch, Midsummer Stitch, whatever. You know what I'm talking about, maybe. Since then, I just recently went to the Harvest Moon Hangout that was also hosted by Lindy Stitches, and that was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like the 19th, 20th, 21st-ish, like right around the fall equinox. So that was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. I was excited to go because I really love Lukrembo and her designs, and I was really interested in hearing her talk about her process and, you know, all that good stuff. And Stitch Crypt I was familiar with, but was anxious to hear more. And so I enjoyed both of their discussions. And the whole presentation from Gloriana Threads about silks was just kind of mind-blowing. It was such a good discussion about how silk is made and how they dye it and what kind of dyes that they use, and, you know, all of that good stuff. So really fun. I'm really glad that I went, and I spent some time with the stitching tables. I told myself I was going to do whip speed dating and then did not do it. So I'm going to try to do it when I attend Jingle Ball. We'll see if I make myself actually do it this time. So, yeah. Okay, so there's been a bunch of other things that have gone on, but that was probably the biggest stitching related thing. So let's just get right into it, shall we? Because I'm sure that at the beginning of this video, there was about like an hour and a half worth of vlog clips. So, which hopefully you enjoyed, because I enjoy them. In fact, sometimes when I'm like editing my video, I, you know, get caught up watching the little vlog clips because they're very relaxing and calming to me, and I enjoy them. So hopefully you do too. Anyway, all right. And I do love that more Flosstubers are doing kind of vlog style videos. When I started doing, you know, my vlog stuff, you know, a few years ago. I did it just because those are the kind of videos that I enjoy watching. And so I'm excited that more people are starting to do it now. So, okay. So I have several finishes to show you, which I have this piece of hair that is just, I don't know what's happening, but we're just gonna, whatever. So I have several finishes to show you, which I'm very excited about because I almost never have finishes to share. But I have been kind of on a mission to try to knock down some of these whips because they're out of control. And once I, you know, finished Henrietta and kind of got her off my plate, I was like, we gotta work on some of these whips. So last time I was here, I talked to you about my 6 Wives of Henry VIII piece, which is by the Primitive Hair. And I started this, I don't know, 2018 something, forever ago. And I started it when Eric and I were watching The Tudors on TV. Now, obviously The Tudors, we were coming to it very late, so we just sort of binge watched it. But as we were watching it, I was like, I really want to stitch this piece. So I dug it out, kitted it up, got it started, and started stitching it while we were watching The Tudors. I ran into a little bit of an issue, which is that my piece of fabric was probably too small to really use, but would not have been too much of a problem if I had started up a little bit higher on my fabric, but I did not. So when I realized that this was going to be a super close call, I think I kind of got disgusted with myself and put it away. Plus we'd finished watching The Tudors, so. But over the summer, we started watching. We watched The White Queen and The White Princess and The Spanish Queen, and then also The Serpent Queen, which is sort of unrelated, but we watched all of those. And so it you know, kind of sparked that want in me to pick this back up and work on it. And I basically just concentrated on it until I was finished. And this is what I was working on during Midsummer Stitch. So it is now finished. And the last time you saw it, I was working on this queen. And so I was able to finish her, do the last one, and then all of their information below. And then down here at the bottom, put in King Henry VIII. And Ramses is going to come and help. So I stitched this on a piece of 40 count Gondar linen that was originally white, and I coffee dyed it. And then I used the called for DMC on this. This piece calls for a whole bunch of French knots. And like in that border, all these little red doodad, that's all French knots. So, and then you can see on each of the queens, there's a bunch of French knots now, and on the crown. I opted to do less because there were so many French knots, and I did try putting the designed amount, the called for amount, and I took them back out because I thought this is overkill. So I selectively did French knots on the queens, like in the crown and a little bit in her dress, and this one a little bit in her hair and kind of, you know, her necklace, and a little bit on her dress. This is Anne Boleyn, Catherine of Aragon. And then you can see I did a little bit, you know, on the crowns. And Catherine Howard in the white dress got all of that back stitching, those little vines and all the little French knot flowers on her dress, which took forever. But I think it turned out really nice. It gives it a little bit of texture, which I think is nice. And then I stitched, of course, the King Henry VIII down at the bottom, and you can see how close I am. Yeah. So, a cautionary tale. Don't do what I did. And you can see how much room I have up at the top. If I had just gone, you know, like a 1/4 of an inch up, I would have been totally okay. But I will somehow figure out how to frame this and it'll be fine. But this was, you need to stay over there. Sorry, you have to stay over there. So this was my first finish, and like I said, this was a long time whip that I was really, really happy to have finished. And then I finished that. My goal was to finish it before my birthday, and so I finished it like, you know, at 12:10 the night before, technically on my birthday, but I was determined to finish it before my birthday so that I could work on something else. And I went back and forth about what do I want to work on for my birthday? Do I want a birthday start? Do I want to work on a whip? If I do want a birthday start, what birthday start do I want? And sorry, he's just gonna come around the other way. So, okay. Could you maybe lay down or something? So, yeah. So, I'm gonna try to keep talking. So I kept trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my birthday. And I had myself convinced that I wanted to start something new. But then when given like free range of, well, you can start anything you want, I couldn't think of anything that I really wanted to start in my stash. And so then I started, you know, looking online and trying to find, you know, something to, a new chart to buy and kit up and all of that. And it just, when it was all said and done, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're forcing yourself to come up with something. And that just didn't feel like an appropriate way to celebrate my birthday. So I sat down and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? You felt so good finishing that whip, the Henry VIII whip, that maybe you give yourself the gift of trying to finish another whip, because that will make you feel good. So I dug around in my stash and I picked something out that I really wanted to work on, that I really wanted to finish. And that piece was my Dracula book cover. And I'm going to try to kind of do this one-handed, and I'm sorry, but this since Tut died, this one has been needy. And some days more than others. Today is one of those days. So, Dracula book cover is this. And this was a freebie from a designer called Damn Good Crafts that I think no longer exists because you cannot find this online anymore. But I downloaded this. This looks like it was done in 2015. I don't recall exactly when I started this piece. It was probably around that 2018 time frame because it is also on a piece of Gondor linen, like my Henry VIII piece. So I just fell in love with this when I saw it. And I saw somebody stitch it. They stitched it on red fabric, which I thought was amazing. And so I really wanted to stitch it. I did make some modifications. So the windows in the top of the tower, I did mine in yellow and gold. Just because I liked that better. It just looked more like, you know, candlelight or whatever. And then the moon, you know, as you can see here, is just supposed to be just a solid white circle. And I didn't love that. I know, you know, kind of the whole point of this is that it's very simple and straightforward, like a book cover, but I needed to be extra. So what I did was I wanted it to actually look like a moon. And so the Witchy Stitcher has this freebie called Blood Moon. And so I took that Blood Moon and I modified it because I needed it to fit and be the same size as the one in the chart, so it needed to be a little smaller. I modified it, and then instead of doing it in reds like a blood moon, I did it in white and grays. So that took a little bit of doing, but I am very, very happy with how it turned out, and I'm very, very happy that I was able to finish it. What I will say, I'm going to pick it up here in just a second and show it to you, but what I will say is that doing the moon with the grays in it and not just a solid white does make it harder to read where it says Dracula across the moon. I've thought about maybe doing like a backstitch to make it stand out a little bit more, but I don't know that I care. So, but I'm aware that it makes it harder to read. But I really like how the moon turned out. So I stitched this on a 40 count Gondor linen that is this sort of blood red color. Are you gonna move now? What are you doing? Okay, you can't sit there. You have to lay down. Come on. You have to lay down or you have to get down. This is really working out for me well, isn't it? Okay. So here is my finish. If you can see around the cat. And I'm very happy with how it turned out. Like I said, I love how the moon turned out. I love having the gold in those windows instead of the white. And you can see that it says Dracula. It is just a little bit difficult to see because of all the swirls that are going on in the background. But I do really love how that moon turned out. I really do. So I am very happy with this. I think it was the perfect thing for me to work on for my birthday. And like I said, and give myself the gift of finishing another long-time whip, especially one that is so like dear to my heart because, I mean, it's Dracula. So, but I'm so thrilled with this, so happy to have it done, and I love it. So after I finished that, I picked up another whip. And so this is something that I started last year during Dark October and had a problem with it. And so I set it aside. And so this year I was determined that I wanted to get it out and work on it and see if I can get it figured out and finish it or chuck it, one way or the other, so that way I wasn't, you know, it wasn't just languishing. You are killing me. So, that's a blank piece of paper. So last year I decided that I have a little Halloween tree that I normally set up like right here. And I wanted some little ornaments to put on it. And so when I saw this design, I was like, this is perfect. I really think this would be perfect to use to make ornaments out of. And so this is a pattern by Teresa Kogut. It was part of her Patreon, and it's called Mischief Brewing. And there's the whole thing. But what I was really interested in were these little trick-or-treat buckets, these little candy pails down at the bottom. I just thought they were so cute. And I thought they would make the perfect little Halloween ornaments. So I started stitching them last year, and it calls for okay, I'm gonna have to put you down because this is crazy. Yep, you're gonna have to go. There you go. Go over there. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. I feel bad. So, okay. What was I saying? So it called for 2 overdyed threads and then the rest were DMC. Because I sort of last minute decided to do this, I was just using the DMC. And the problem I ran into, I started with the little, with the witch pail, and the DMC equivalent that is called for was too dark. And so you couldn't see the definition of like her nose or her hair or anything. And so I got really frustrated and set it aside. And I was like, I'm done with this. So sometime between last October and August, September, whatever, I ordered the 2 overdyed threads. So the first thing that I did when I picked this back up was I ripped out all of that DMC in her face and decided to, and then restitched it with the overdyed threads, the called for. and it made a world of difference. So I was able to stitch all 5 of these and get them finished, finish stitching. Now I just need to FFO them into little ornaments. So here are 4 of them. And so you can see, like, this needed to be a lighter green so that you can, you know, see her little nose and her hair. They're so cute. They're so cute. And I stitched this is a piece of 40 count dill by Picture This Plus, but I think it's an older piece, maybe not. But I love how these turned out. And then on this, because I was stitching on a scrap piece of fabric, I have the skull here. So these just turned out so cute. I love them. So what I thought I would do is maybe do kind of, you know, oval ornaments. And I ordered some black and orange beads, like Mill Hill beads from 123 Stitch. And so I thought I might make like little beaded hangers for them. So that's the plan. We will see if I get that done, but they're all stitched now, which I am super thrilled about. And this was yet one more whip off my list. So yay. Very happy about that. And I may go back and at some point stitch the rest of this. I may just do kind of from here up, because I really think this is cute. I love this pumpkin and his little face and this little owl. I love this. So I may just stitch that. But the candy buckets were the thing that got me. And I was like, yeah, gotta stitch that. So finish that. And then once I was finished with the candy buckets, I decided, since October is almost here and I am planning on releasing my the planchette that I designed for the Dark October seance last year, I'm planning on releasing that this year. So I figured I should probably stitch it. So I've had this kitted up forever. I think, if I recall correctly, I ordered the threads for this at the same time that I ordered the overdyed threads for the candy buckets, and then they just set. But it doesn't matter, those are done now. And my planchette is done now too. So this is the Belladonna planchette that I designed last year for the Dark October seance. And if you don't know what the Dark October seance is, so Emily C. Eclectic Possessions and I, on the 13th of every month, we host Dark 13 stitching, so that every month you can have your little dose of dark, spooky stitching. And we've been doing that for, it was 9 years in September. And then for the month of October, we do Dark October stitching. And so this will be the 9th year of Dark October stitching, if you can believe that. And a few years ago, we decided to do a virtual hangout, basically at the end of the month in October, and we call it Dark October Seance. And so we try to limit it to, you know, kind of a small number of people, so that, you know, it's not overwhelming. It's a little intimate, like a seance. And we open up signups for that usually on the 13th of October. And then we send out the Zoom invite, etc. So this year, the Dark October seance is going to be on October 24th. So Halloween falls on a Friday, but since a lot of people have Halloween plans, we decided we would just bump it back a week and do it on Friday the 24th. So more to come on that, but each year I design, because it's the Dark October seance, I design a planchette to go with your Ouija board. And so last year was the Belladonna planchette. And I will, of course, talk more about that when I release it, but I was able to get this stitched. And so I stitched this on 40 count Kunzite by Fiber on a Whim, which is, it hopefully you can see, is kind of a lavender color, which I thought was perfect for this. I used this fabric for my Starry Moth by the Blue Flower that I stitched a couple years ago. And I thought it would be perfect for this. So this is done all in DMC, and I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out. I just finished it last night. My goal was to finish it by the end of September, and I met that goal. So there it is. Very happy with it. And I have the planchette board from April at Homestead Needleworks to mount this on. So I'm going to get this mounted and photographed and finalize my chart. And then that will be released later this month. Very happy with how it turned out. And one more thing done. So that is it for my finishes. And I am going to show you basically just one whip because you've seen everything that I've been working on since the last time I saw you in August. So I will show you the only other thing that I've been working on, which is my Shores of Hawkrun Hollow, which I work on Friday nights. So I am working on block 5, and this is where I'm at. I think the last time you saw it, I just had kind of like this business right here, because I was working my way down so that I could check my border and make sure I had it correct. So I've basically just been working on the house. You know, I did the words up here and have basically been working on the house, and it is coming along slowly but surely. And I am stitching this on the called for 36 count vintage autumn gold by Lakeside. I think I started this back in like 2007, 8, 9, something like that, when Lakeside was plentiful and we were all fools for not buying all of it. But that is what this is stitched on. And I am using the called for NPI silks. So that's where I'm at. Let me show you what the block will look like when it's finished. I'm working on this one right here. So that's what it will look like when it's all done. And I've stitched these 4, I've stitched the whole top row. So as soon as I finish this one, then I have this big ship block to work on. So there you go. So that is the only other thing that I've been working on. And like I said, I've been working on that on Friday nights. And yeah, that's the only time it gets worked on. So it doesn't get a ton of progress, but it gets some. So the other thing that you probably saw some video of in the vlog is, along with trying to work on stitching whips, I've also been trying to take a hard look at my quilting whips. And I know I don't talk quilting too much here because honestly, since 2020, I haven't really done any sewing or quilting to speak of. So I decided that I had a quilt top that I had finished. I had the quilt backing fabric, I had the binding fabric, like I had it all together. Well, I had it all. And the quilt top was done. So I decided that I needed to just bite the bullet and get it quilted because it has just been sitting here for years. And it's a smaller size quilt, so I thought it would be a good one to, you know, to send out, you know, and get back relatively quickly, and then I can get it finished and out of my closet. So I sent it to Red Velvet and had her quilt it for me. She did a beautiful job, and I got it back, and now I just need to do the binding on it. Unfortunately, my sewing machine has decided that it is not going to work. So I need to take it and have it serviced because I could not tell you if or when it has ever been serviced. So I need to get that fixed so that I can sew my binding on and get that taken care of. And I feel like the last time I really used my machine to sew anything beyond just a little bit of finishing or mending, that I had a problem with it, and I kind of made it work, which was probably not ideal, but what are you gonna do? So I got that quilt back. I need to do the binding on it, and then it will be finished. And I'm so thrilled because then it will be out of my closet, which is the goal. The goal is to get things out of my closet. But I tell you what, when I decided to send it, I dug out the quilt top, but then I had to go digging to find the backing fabric, because why would you store them together? That would make way too much sense. So of course they were in two completely different places. So I had to do all of this digging, which just reinforced to me, I need to get things finished and get stuff out of that closet because it's driving me insane. And funny enough, I was looking back at some of my Dark October vlogs from last year, and I was doing some finishing and ran into the same problem where I was like, I had to dig to find, you know, this for finishing and this, you know, and it was just like to try to find backing fabric for something, and then the batting and trim, they're not all in the same place. And so that drives me insane, which makes me not want to do it because I know I'm going to have to dig for stuff. So anyway, so hopefully I will get my machine serviced soon. I just need to call them and take it in. And then I can get my binding on, and then that quilt will be done. Yay. And I will show it to you when it's all done. But like I said, I think I probably showed you a little clippy clip of it, maybe. But I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I have a second quilt, which is my Halloween quilt. And every year I hang the quilt top here because it's not quilted. And I will probably be doing that again this year. My intention was that I needed backing fabric for it. So I actually did find backing fabric and purchase backing fabric for it. It is a larger quilt, and the fabric that it's made out of is long out of print. But I was able to find something that I think works really well and coordinates and is by the same designer, Tula Pink. So I'm very happy with the backing fabric that I got, but I need to piece that backing fabric so that I can send it out and have it quilted. And my machine's not working. So as soon as my machine is working, I can piece that and then potentially have it quilted. So it's not going to be done for this Halloween, but hopefully I will have it done for next Halloween. That is the plan. And in the meantime, I can dig out my binding fabric because I do have that. And hopefully I can find it before I need it. But then that would be 2 quilts out of my closet, which would be fantastic because, like I said, the more stuff I can get out of my closet, the better. And this is my craft closet that I'm talking about. So I don't have a craft room. I have a craft closet. So very excited about that. But you will see at some point I will hang up my quilt top so that you can see it. But it is not quilted, which is whatever. It is what it is. So, but I was thrilled to get that done. Let's see, what else? Okay. I'm not going to go into dark October stitching plans because I am going to be doing my weekly vlogs like I do every year. And I thought it might just be kind of fun to just show you what I'm working on kind of in the moment, so to speak. And this video I wanted to do to kind of catch you up to speed on everything that I've been working on, what I finished, and then what I've been reading. And then I can kind of start fresh for October. And in the vlogs, I will show you what I've picked to work on. So, okay, let's talk about books. So, last time I was reading Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this is by Heather Fawcett. This is book 1 in the Emily Wilde series. I think there's 2 more, maybe. I was really looking forward to reading this because I had heard such good things about it, and I enjoyed it. I did. It didn't blow me out of the water, but I did enjoy it. I kind of wish that I had known this was more of a winter book, because it would have been nice to read it during winter, but I read it in August, so in Texas, whatever. But this was good. I enjoyed it, and as you can see, it is not super big. It's kind of cozy fantasy. So I read that, and then I picked up a book that a friend of mine had recommended to me, which was a book. It's the first book in a series, and it's by Stephanie Holmes, and it's called A Dead and Stormy Night. And I was like, okay, perfect, you know, cozy mystery fantasy kind of situation. I'm into it. Takes place in a bookstore. Great. And so this is book 1 in the Nevermore bookshop mystery series. And I enjoyed it. Again, this didn't kind of blow my socks off, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then the next book that I read, so I was just finishing up that book, and a friend of mine messaged me and was like, Michelle, you have to go read this book immediately, like immediately. And she said, you know, you will love this book, I promise. And so the book is Never the Roses by Jennifer K. Lambert. It's a standalone fantasy romance. And she was like, it's cozy, but not really in the way that you would expect. And, you know, part of what won me over about this, other than she just said, you will love this, go read it, is that she said, this is not like anything else I've ever read. And I totally agree with that. One of the things that I loved about this book, and let me just say, I loved this book. It was 5-star. It was so good, so good. And it is cozy. It's kind of cottagecore. But not. But it was so good. But one of the things that I loved about it is that, you know, typically in your romance fantasy books, you know, you have these very young characters, or at least a very young female main character who's like just coming into her power, you know, that whole thing. This is about, you know, a woman that is basically, she's like paid her dues, she's done the stuff, she's basically retired. And so she's older. The male main character is older. And I loved that because it was just such a different take on things. And, you know, the book kind of starts off with, you know, what sort of triggers like all the events is she basically breaks into his library and steals a book, which I love. Like, I love A, that he has his own library, B, that she breaks in to steal a book. Then he's like, who the hell has been in my library? Because they're both sorcerers. And so, you know, he can tell that somebody's been in his library and has taken a book. But he can't for the life of him figure out why. So anyway, it's really, really, really good. I highly recommend it. It's called Never the Roses. I'm definitely going to be, I just bought the ebook, but I'm definitely going to be getting this in hardback so that I can have it in my personal library, because I know I will reread this because it's just that good. The next book that I read was for the Sampler Guild of the Rockies book club, which started back up. And the book that we read for September was called A Fall of Marigolds by Susan Meisner. And this was really good. It basically, you know, is 2 time periods. It does deal with September 11th. One of the time periods also takes place around 1910, I think, 1910, 1911. when the shirtwaist fire broke out, where all of the employees, the seamstresses, had been sort of locked in that building when a fire broke out. And so one of the characters that this follows is a nurse that is working on Ellis Island, and then the other that survived that fire, and then the other timeline is a woman that works at a quilt shop that had survived September 11th. And so it's really interesting, the parallels between the two. Really good book. I would recommend it. But, just kind of spoiler alert, know that you are getting into September 11th territory. So, the next thing that I read was for my book club, the Absinthe and Shadows Literary Society. And the book that we read, this thing is so heavy. The book that we read for our September book club was Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. And this is my first book that I've read by R.F. Kuang, and it will not be my last. I definitely want to read Babel. I definitely want to read The Poppy War. I definitely want to read Yellowface. This was a good introduction to her for me. Now, what I will say about this book, and let's just take a moment to look at the sprayed edges on this book, can we? Because, yeah, it's beautiful. What I will say about this book, so this book it's around 550-ish pages. So it's deceptive because it doesn't look like it's that big, but like I said, this sucker is heavy. This book is a little polarizing. People either love it or they hate it. And we were sort of split in the book club discussion. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. There were things about it that I thought were really interesting that I didn't feel like had been done before, that I had read before. So I thought it was really interesting and well done. And there is a lot in this book, so it's about two grad students that basically go to hell to try to get their professor back. And so it's a little bit dark academia. It's a little bit fantasy. It reminded me a little bit of Hellbent or The Ninth House. It had that kind of vibe to me. It also reminded me a little bit of The Magicians, which I have not read that book, but I have watched the TV series. So it reminded me of that a little bit as well. But there is a lot in here that deals with logic and philosophy and math. And I was honestly super intimidated to read this book because I thought, even though I picked it, I really had a hard time making myself read it because I was super intimidated by it. And I was really afraid that it was going to be over my head, but it was not. And what's interesting to me is, philosophy, logic, math, anything like that, I don't want anything to do with it. I want nothing to do with that whatsoever. But the way that she explained it in the places, where it pops up in this book is done so well that you don't have to understand it in order to understand kind of the premise behind it. Like, you understand why why things are the way that they are without really having to understand the concepts behind it. You know what I mean? And the way that Rebecca Kwong does that is really artful. But I really enjoyed this book. I really thought it was interesting, you know, to kind of all the references to Dante and Virgil, and I really enjoyed it. So I recommend it, but just know going into it that it's a very polarizing book and people love it or they hate it. But I think that if you enjoyed Babel, you will probably enjoy this. So, and someone sent me a reel from Rebecca Kwong the other day where she was talking about a Venn diagram of Babel versus Catabasis versus the Poppy War versus Yellowface, and how they all kind of correlate in a very strange way, so in a very funny way, but which I thought was interesting. So finished that, and I am currently reading a book. So I've started my spooky reading for the year, and so this book I had a hold on and it came up, and so I was like, great, perfect, we'll read this. And so it's A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. Now this author also wrote another book which I cannot think of the name of, The Very Secret Society of Regular Witches, which it says right here. I have not read that book. I have that one on hold as well, so I'm hoping to read it, but this one came up first, so this is the newer of the two. So I'm reading this. I have kind of a selection of books that I want to read during October, during Dark October, so I'm excited about that. Hopefully we'll see how many I get through. My reading has been super slow lately, so it is what it is. But while I am here, I did also want to share that the next book for my book club, which will be in November, is T. Kingfisher's Hemlock and Silver, which is a retelling of Snow White, which should be really interesting. I've heard really good things about this book. It was just released in August. Note the sprayed edges. So I'm a sucker for a sprayed edge. So I'm excited to read this. This will be my first book by T. Kingfisher as well. So we'll see how that is. And then I have also put up the selections for January and March on the website. The website is mistressofthehouseofbooks.com if you're interested. And if you'd like to join the book club, we'd love to have you. We meet every other month virtually. So, okay, I think that's it for me. And like I said, I will be doing my weekly vlogs for Dark October stitching, so you can look forward to hearing from me in about a week. And I will share with you what I'm working on for October and what I'm reading and what I think of it and all of that good stuff. So we will say goodbye to September and move into my favorite month of the year. And the next time you see me, hopefully you will also see my house decorated for October for Halloween. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me again. And I hope that, like I said, that you found something that you enjoyed here, Thank you, for continuing to come back and visit with me. I really appreciate it. And if you're interested in the Dark October seance, definitely look for that to happen. We'll do the sign-ups probably on the 13th. If you're interested in my Belladonna planchette, keep an eye out for that. I will be releasing that probably around the 13th. And yeah, I look forward to it. So happy Dark October stitching. Bye.